So I wanted to sit down today and talk about death in JoJo because I was kind of thinking about making like my next video for JoJo or whatever, and I'm thinking about doing like a character explain video and shit, and I'm coming up with a couple ideas and all that, and then I think, hey, I wanted to talk about characters that just die out and people that just get killed and what the impact is of their death on the story, because usually when death happens, I mean, even in real life, just in anything, there's just deaths that are sometimes in vain, whether somebody died trying to do something for somebody else. There's people that just die naturally of age or whatever. There's people that die from sickness. There's people that die, but usually when people die, there's always some type of impact on something in the world. There's always impact on somebody's life, and there's something that always happens usually. So I want to just sit down and talk about death in JoJo and its impact on the series and its different characters. And until looking at this list of like people that actually sit there and get killed in JoJo, or just somebody that dies, there's a lot of damn people that get killed. Especially in like part one, a lot of characters kind of just get bodied, and these niggas are dead as shit. Oh, wow. But like aside from maybe Danny, I guess, in part one, I mean, there's Dario Brando, and there's like what's her face? I think her name is Mary Joestar. It was George's wife or whatever. Aside from like them, I mean, I guess you can't really. Danny was the dog, yeah. Jonathan was upset, but like and it's not to say that I wouldn't be upset like if my dog were to die, like, because it's gonna happen eventually, and when it does, I'm kind of like trying to prepare myself for it mentally and emotionally, because it's gonna be really tough, because I had my dog with me for a long time. But like, I get why he'd be upset and shit, but that's nothing compared to like sitting there and having your dad die in your arms, when Dio stabs George in like the chest or whatever, and he uses his blood to become a vampire with the stone mask, and he just dies in Jonathan's arms. I mean, he couldn't really do anything, and George just stood there and died, and Jonathan couldn't really do anything either, and he was just like, no, like this shouldn't be happening, what? And he was really fucking shocked and hurt. And his dad is just like, yeah, I'm sorry for mistreating you since that Dio kid has been here. I kind of been like neglecting you and shit. I'm really sad for, I'm really sorry for being like a poor dad and shit. And it's one of those moments where it's just like, oh, dude, like, come on. It's right when you're about to die, you want to sit there and apologize to him. Like, you were already, kind of old and sick and in bed and stuff. And Dio tried to poison you, and this guy like fucking tried to kill you so many times, and you were just so forgiving towards him, but you were so cruel, and well, not quote unquote cruel, but you were just harsh towards your son. It's like, I understand, kind of being harsh to him, give him a little bit of character, and it's definitely George Joestar's death changed Jonathan's character a lot. I mean, aside from Dio becoming a fucking vampire and deciding to kill his father and burn down his fucking mansion and shit, George's death definitely is like the first thing. I mean, it's one of the first few things we see in the series. Hell, I think it's in like episode 2 or 3 of the Phantom Blood anime. And Phantom Blood is only like 9 episodes long. You can sit down and watch Phantom Blood in like one sitting, and it's like 3 hours long or some shit. Each episodes are like 20 minutes. Cutting out the opening and the ending if you skip those, watching it in like a binge session or whatever. And even if you don't want to watch every single episode and you just want like a little synopsis of it, or you want to go back and rewatch some of it, on Crunchyroll they have this little hour-long version of it where they cut out some of the scenes of them like traveling and stuff, and it's kind of just like a shortened version of it, but it still covers most of the main ideas. But I'm going too much on a tangent here, but it's just one of the first deaths that we see in the series, and honestly the first major death that's actually on screen aside from maybe Dario, but who really cared about him? I mean, everybody pretty much liked George, at least most of us did. Shit, I like George. George was pretty cool, he was doing a fine job being an old ass man and just chilling at the mansion, he just a gentleman, and he showed Jonathan how to become a gentleman, and Jonathan always kept that characteristic, even though he was sitting there punching the fuck out of vampires and zombies and all types of weird shit. Like, damn. But this death motivates him to go to a new height and a new extent of having to become stronger as a man, and aside from having to fight fucking Dio, because you're fighting an immortal vampire, you're gonna have to learn some shit, you're gonna have to get strong, you're gonna have to gain some life experience in there to be able to actually do that. I'm scratching the back of my head because my head fucking Feels itchy, and I don't know why. It's really cold when I'm recording this. I'm like shivering actually. I should probably put a sweater on because I'm just wearing like a short sleeve shirt, but. And then the next major death that we get is William Antonio Zappelli. So William is the guy that shows up and fucking gut punches Jonathan and gives him hormone and shit. He's like, yeah, I know who you are, Jonathan Joestar. Yeah, I've been studying you for a long time. Yeah, that Dio guy. Yeah, he's an asshole. We gotta go kill him. Yeah, I can teach you this hormone way. See, what you gotta do is you gotta breathe, right? You gotta be like, and then you just go, and you punch the fuck out of the sun, and you break the sun, and then you beat the game. Ding ding ding. It's Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne all over again. Just punch the fucking sun. Same thing with Digital Devil Saga. Just fucking cut the sun with a sword. I don't know what the fuck this is. It's like my cutting motion, I guess, or my stabby. I don't fucking. There's like a pencil over here. You just like, you know, fucking, yeah. I don't fucking know. I don't play with knives. You stab people. That's bad. So what happens to William? Well, fucking Jonathan is stuck in Tarkus's chain, and Tarkus fucking pulls it and shit, and then William ends up getting himself caught in the chain, and he fucking gets sliced in half so that Jonathan can escape, and Jonathan ends up killing Tarkus and shit. And that's only after William was able to give him a hormone transfer, and that's what I'm kind of talking about when I mentioned this whole, you know, I have to give you something, I have to contribute to something before I die, this whole impact thing. This is like the first, I guess, little, like, well, huge power boost we see of somebody dying and passing on something to somebody, some type of knowledge or anything. Because you see it on, you know, after. But William gives him his, like, last bit of hormone, and, like, when he gives him all this energy, and he makes Jonathan stronger because he gives him a power boost, essentially. You know, you see William age a lot, and he's just dying, and, you know, he's just like, you know, I don't regret anything. You were a good guy. I believe in you. I know that you can do this. You're strong. Go ahead, Jonathan. And Jonathan's just like, bruh, like, that was my fucking dude, right? That was my nigga. That was my teacher. You know, I liked William. And I always liked William, you know, just me personally. But Jonathan is just, you know, really fucking conflicted. He already lost two, I guess, father figures, quote unquote. Aside from his actual father, he lost a father figure in William. And he just fucking dies, and he gets ripped in half so that Jonathan can live. And he gives him his hormone, and Jonathan beats the fuck out of Tarkus, and he wins. And it's like, yay, but it's really painful and sad on the inside that William just has to fucking die like this, honestly. I mean, it's upsetting. It's upsetting. But he passes on the torch. He gives him the hormone, and he's like, you can do this, man. I believe in you. Aside from a bunch of Dio's fucking lackeys just dying, like, you know, Wang Chan or Doobie and guys like that. I mean, what? There's Dyer? Dyer is just that hormone guy that got fucking frozen by Dio. He did the, like, whole, like, cross thing with his hands and fucking went, and he, like, fucking flew everywhere. I'm saying fuck a lot in this. Fuck. This is what happens when you talk about death. You get really fucking emo and you just say fuck a lot. Fuck. Speaking of all this death shit, apparently Netflix is doing a Death Note series now. There's a movie or some shit, and people are complaining about actors, and people always complain about everything. God damn, shut the fuck up. Oh yeah, so Jonathan dies. Yeah, see, Dio's just like pew pew space ripper stingy eyes, and he fucking shoots him in the neck, and then Jonathan's like, gah! And then his wife makes it off the boat, and Dio takes Jonathan's body and survives in the coffin for like a bajillion, trillion, billion centuries, and then there you go. That's the end of JoJo. JoJo's canceled. JoJo sucks. And we have Caesar Antonio Zappelli. So we have William Antonio, and then we have Caesar Antonio. And Caesar, you guys know how I feel about him. But for those of you guys that aren't subscribed to me or whatever, this is like your first time watching me or something, first off, hi. But I'm not the biggest Caesar fan. I used to really like him a lot when I was first starting the series, and then he just kind of became my least favorite Zappelli. I mean, I understand him being hot-headed and all of that shit, you know, has to deal with his character. I mean, he's young. He's like 19 years old. You know, it's in his character. It's normal for people his age to act like that, I guess. I mean, I'm 17, and I don't want to run out and fight giant wind, half-naked, fucking L'Oreal shampoo commercial guy people model things by myself with bubbles. That doesn't sound like a good idea. Caesar gets fucking killed by Wamu, but what he ends up doing before dying is he takes the ring that has the antidote for the poison that Joseph had, and he takes his hamon and his scarf, and he fucking wraps it around the ring with his scarf and with his hamon, and he makes this little blood bubble that he keeps afloat with his hamon even after he dies, just there for Joseph to find so that he can get the antidote and so that he can heal himself. And of course, we all know Joseph shows up with Lisa, and they're both very fucking sad. And there's the whole Caesar, and all that shit. And he's all upset and crying, but it's just another situation, and it's the next big one, really, of a death in JoJo being something that has impact on people, regardless of if you like the characters or not, or the part or not. You still gotta accept the facts where they are. And just the actual storytelling, it's a big impact that probably made a lot of people sad in the first watch. I was kind of just like because I already knew it was going to happen because memes, and I blame memes and people spoiling JoJo for me for ruining some of these emotional moments, because I just look at them and I'm just like, so what? But Caesar dies, and it really matters, because it's like he would have had a better chance of fighting against Car, speaking about Joseph, if both of them would have been there and he would have survived. And even Wamu says this, that his bubbles would have been really good against Car's light ability, because of all the reflections and shit like that, and they could have probably done something really clever with the hamon, and it could have killed Cars before his transformation. But that sadly didn't happen, and I might end up making another what if video talking about that, because those what if videos are pretty damn fun to make. I mean, I made the one on what if there were no stands in JoJo, and that was like 30 minutes of me talking. I didn't even think it would be that long, but when you go part by part, it takes a while. But Joseph gets this big ass hamon boost, kind of similar to his grandfather Jonathan did, and he goes in and he fights Wamu, and he beats Wamu in the chariot race, which is probably the best part out of Battle Tennessee, in my opinion. It was just a really good fight, and it was really enjoyable, and all the characters had they did a really good job right there. Just, I don't know, Rocky did a really good job rating that part. That segment was so good. I mean, but realistically, Caesar's death was just pretty damn sad. I mean, Joseph spent so much time with Caesar recently before all that happened, and they were starting to get a bond, and before he fucking dies, they have like an argument, and they're over here fighting with each other, and then Caesar goes out and gets killed, and it's just like, well, now Joseph can't apologize for anything. He probably felt worse than he did before, and he definitely would have sat there and blamed himself for it. I mean, fuck, if you get into an argument with your friend and then 5 minutes later, your friend leaves or whatever, and your friend gets killed, that would be pretty damn horrible. And I would feel guilty, even though it's not my fault that they're dead, but I would just feel so hurt that I was just fighting with the person, and they went and died. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, I personally don't hold grudges. I've had like plenty of problems with plenty of people before, and just situations where people have treated me poorly or said something to offend me, and just things like that, and I might not view them the same anymore after that incident, which is fine, because again, I'm still human and I have emotions and shit. But I try not to hold grudges, because again, you never know when things like this are gonna happen, and you never know if you're just gonna lose somebody that or you're gonna lose somebody that you care about, or if you yourself are gonna die or are gonna be in extreme critical condition. I mean, anything can happen any given moment. Like right now, while I'm sitting here recording this, there's like a really bad windstorm outside, and God forbid, but a random ass tree could just come crushing down and strike me down from the back of my window right here, where all that light is coming from. That's that Jesus light. Thank you, Jesus, I love you. But you never know when something like that could just happen, and it's just the cruel reality that hit in JoJo, and it happens a lot in JoJo, where characters just randomly get killed and they just die, and just like boom, like that. And you guys seem to like when I go boom. That was like a big thing in the Persona review. And these next 3 deaths back to back, holy shit, these are just like the definition of ow, that hurt. Ugh. And I'm talking about Avdol, Iggy, and Kakuin, and Avdol's the first one out of the bunch. And the funny thing is, before they go into Dio's mansion, he's talking to Polnareff and everybody else or whatever, and he's like, no matter what goes on in here, we have to keep going forward until we get to Dio, because he's our ultimate goal. We have to get rid of him no matter what goes on. And everybody's like, all right, gotcha. And the first thing that fucking happens when they go inside of Dio's mansion, Avdol's like, holy shit, there's something behind us. Polnareff, Iggy, get out the way. And he pushes them back. All right, like he pushes them away. And he looks back, and in that second he looks back, he gets fucking crushed by Vanilla Ice. And then you see Cream holding up his like arms like this or whatever in his mouth, and it fucking swallows him into the void, and Avdol's gone. And yikes, that was cruel. Free my nigga Abdul, man. That's all I'm saying. Real talk. Hashtag free my nigga Abdul down below in the comments. And then Iggy was already missing like a paw. I think it was like his like left paw or something. When he had the fight with Pet Shop, you know, he got really fucking injured. And he's just this little ass dog that just wanted to live a normal little doggy life. And I always feel bad for him because it's just like this dog sat here and sacrificed himself so that Polnareff could kill this immortal gay ass vampire that is Vanilla Ice. And Iggy gave up the last bit of his life energy to use his stand so that he could assist Polnareff even just a little bit. And a man who was just so damn injured and so hurt that he couldn't do anything, and he just sat there watching Iggy get body bagged and get rapidly kicked and fucking thrown into the wall and punched and just beat the shit out of by Vanilla Ice. And you know, Iggy's just a little ass dog. He's like a tiny little puppy, and he was getting beat up by a vampire guy. And Polnareff was there, and he couldn't do anything about it because he was too fucking hurt to move, and he was just stuck on the ground, and his legs were injured, and he couldn't do shit. And he had to sit there and watch his doggy friend get beat up and body bagged by this guy, and that must have felt like shit, man. I wouldn't be able to tolerate that. I mean, even just watching the episode, I got really disturbed and really bothered, and I actually had to like pause watching it because I was just like, you know, really fucking hurt, and I was just like, dude, like the dog did nothing, man. Free the dog, help him. And then Kakyoin gets bodied, and everybody knows about Kakyoin because, you know, memes, XD, he's a donut, ah ha ha, because he's got a big hole in the middle of his chest, ah ha ha, aha! Seriously, guys, that's all you can think about? Fucking donuts? Donuts? You couldn't think of any other jokes? Nothing original? Just fucking donuts. Alright, Kakyoin dies, and while he's about to die, he knows he's about to die, and he's like, I'm gonna make use out of myself to help my friends because Jotaro is a cool guy, and Joseph is a cool guy, and I don't know who else survived, and I don't know what happened to the others, but I'm hoping that whoever's alive can survive. And he uses his last bit of life energy to shoot one last emerald splash at the clock, in which, you know, he breaks it, and Joseph comes to the conclusion that Dio can stop time somehow by that. Even though it doesn't make sense to me that Johnny was able to tell that Diego was stopping time by approximately 5 seconds, like so fucking spot on. He's just like, wait, this guy is stopping time by at least 5 seconds, nani? While it took Kakyoin a whole fucking like 15-minute explanation of him just talking in the water canteen with water like gushing through the holes in his body and shit, while he's just like sitting there, and he's just like, hey, this guy can stop time. That's the only reasonable explanation for me getting hit, right? I mean, I hit him with the 20-meter emerald splash from all around. He should have been super dead as shit. Like, that should have just, like, destroyed Dio's body. He should have been gone. And then the next thing you know, I'm here with a hole in my chest dying on a giant canteen of water. So clearly he stopped time, which is a pretty damn good conclusion. You guys want to know another death that's kind of actually impactful and a lot of people just memed, and I myself memed it because I didn't care? Shigechi. Now, regardless if you like Shigechi or not, because I don't like Shigechi, he's still like 12 years old and he gets fucking blown up by a guy. And the last thing he like says before he dies is that he wants to protect his mom and his dad from this crazy serial killer that can blow things up just by touching them. That's some sad shit, you know? And he dies screaming for help from the only two people that he really knew, I guess, that were just his friends and the people that accepted him, because let's face it, you know, Shigechi is pretty damn ugly. He looks like the son of like the Doria from Dragon Ball Z, and he's just like got these like spiky ass spikes on his fucking head, and he's gross looking. But he's still a 12-year-old, and he gets killed by a grown-ass man, and the last thing he says is, you know, he wants to protect his mom and his dad, and it's just like, ouch. And this is the catalyst for everybody wanting to rush and chase after Kiriyoshi Kage and Diamond is Unbreakable, and everybody starts to actually, you know, take things a little more seriously. And it's not to say that they weren't taking things seriously, but they just see some random ass, you know, bystander 12-year-old get killed, and everybody's bothered by it. I mean, Josuke's hurt, Okuyasu's hurt, and he feels like shit because he's like, man, he didn't deserve this. He was just a little kid, you know? He didn't have anything to do with this, so why did he have to get killed? And he went and got killed, and everybody was just pissed off about this. And honestly, like I said, I still don't like Shigechi that much. I think he's like, you know, really annoying and shit and just bratty, but I can't be upset at, you know, him completely, because again, at the end of the day, he's only like a little 12-year-old little kid, you know? He's in like middle school and shit, and he just gets blown up by a grown-ass man. He couldn't do anything about it, and it's just, it's upsetting. It's sad. The next death is Bruno, because fuck Abacchio. Alright? Did I offend you, the Abacchio fans out there? If like any of you exist, there's probably like 10 of you guys out there. But yeah, fuck Abacchio. Are you triggered now? Are you angry at me? Are you angry? If you're angry at me, type in the comments how angry you are. I like reading those angry comments. Bucciolati dies in the weirdest way, right? He initially dies in his fight with Diavolo when he's trying to protect Trish. You know, he gets like fucking chopped in half by King Crimson, and then he just is supposed to die, but his soul wants to keep fighting, and Giorno shows up and he heals him a gold experience, and then his soul just ends up remaining in his body because he feels like he hasn't finished the job yet. So then he has to go kill Diavolo, and then when he actually prevents Diavolo from stabbing himself with the arrow, and you know what would have been a King Crimson Requiem, which would have been pretty fucking scary, he stops that from happening, and he makes it so that Silver Chariot Requiem stops attacking everybody. Everybody's souls go back, and then after this, he gives his final farewell to Giorno, and he fucking dies. Was Giorno dead? That means that Mista would have been the next in head of the gang, but of course, wait, did I just say Giorno? Fuck! With Bruno dead, that means that Mista would have been the next one in command, and Giorno would have been, you know, the person after that, I guess, if whatever decision was made. But since Giorno was leading the team, he was like, fuck it, I'll be the gang boss now. Let's go, Mista. And they go about doing that after they kill Diavolo, but it's just like Bruno takes his last moments of his already dead body and his already dead self, and he dies again. He dies his second time, just so that he can sit there and help his friends and help out the gang. And that's some real nigga shit, you know. You come back from the dead like as a zombie just to help your niggas get past their problem, and then after, you know, your niggas pass the problem and shit, you just die off. Real nigga shit right there. Like, shout out to Bruno, man. This is poetic. Beautiful. Beautiful. And then, you know, you guys know Gyro dies in part 7, and in part 6 literally everybody fucking dies. But my point with this is, because I'm already talking for a really long time, it's like 28 minutes in, and again, it happens when you go part by part, and I mentioned that earlier. But my point with this is, you know, deaths in JoJo really just affect the story overall. I mean, it's like really sad most of the time, and it's just one of those things where you might take some of them lightly, but for the most part, there's always some type of impact on something in the story and one of the characters, and it always ends up changing something or somebody. You know, especially in part 6. I mean, everybody fucking dies except for Emporio, but even Jolene in her like last dying stance or whatever, she just face on takes like Poochie. She like head on, she just takes on Poochie, and she, you know, faces off of them, and she doesn't flinch, she doesn't back up, she's not scared, she's not crying or anything. She just stands there, and she's like, all right, come at me, bye bye Emporio, you know, thanks for doing whatever you could, and you know, make sure that you survive this mad mess of a fucking situation that's going on. It's just a clusterfuck. And Jolene just dies, and everybody else was already dead, and they couldn't do anything about it. I mean, Jotaro was dead, he couldn't use his time stop to even get to Poochie. Hermes was fucking dead, Anasui was dead, Weather Report was, you know, dead for a while now, and same with the Foo Fighters, but everybody just dies, and it's just like, ouch. Moral of the story is death sucks. I'm really tired, and I'm gonna go to bed now, and it's like the fucking afternoon, but I'm sleepy. If you guys like the video, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and yeah, that sucks. Don't die yet. Live as long as you can, because dying is fucking retarded.